I apologize for that, my lady. I do this.
Yes, Mr. Pistorius.
Sorry, I'm late.
That's fine. Please take a seat. You're still under oath, ma'am?
Is nog steeds on een evening, mevrouw? Yes, my lady.
As a piece of court, my lady. Madam, I have two more issues. Now, the first is, apart from the four noises you've heard, did you hear any other?
No.
No.
You've testified about the voice of a woman you heard.
Ik vertel hoe die stem van die vrouw wat ik gehoord het, nee.
Did you hear any screams by any?
Het enige geluid of geschreeuw hier gehoord.
Glad nie.
Not at all.
Thank you, my lady. I have nothing further.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Roux?
Thank you, my lady. Mrs. van der Merwe, is it Mrs.?
Is het mijn juffrouw of mevrouw?
Mevrouw.
Mrs.
I start with the events that you referred to of the 21st of February this year.
Je zei ons al begonnen met die gebeurtenissen wat op de 21ste van februari van jaar plaatsvond.
Where you heard, I think, two male voices.
Yes.
Daar waar je twee manstemmen gehoord.
I'll tell you what it was all about.
Sê ons waaroor was dat?
I'll tell you.
Oké, sê, sal u sê. Oké.
We did tests of a woman and a man screaming as loud as they could in the bedroom.
Hy sê hulle toetse gedoen oor 'n man en vrou wat hardop geskree het in die slaapkamer.
To determine how far sound would travel.
Net om vas te stel hoe ver stemme kan gaan.
2 to 3 in the morning.
Ongeveer 2 en 3 uur in die oggend.
And what's interesting, and I'll come to that in relation to your house, you could not hear the screaming.
Hy sê wat van belang is, maar hy kom nog na daai punt. Hy kon nie iemand hoor gehou nie, nee. Nou,
Yes. And you know why it is?
ek sê weet jy hoekom was dit? Of was dit?
I went to where your house is, where all of us, and to where Mr. Pistorius' house is. And if you accept what I say, it's fine, then I don't have to demonstrate it. But from your balcony, his bedroom and his balcony door and the bathroom even, all of them are right on the opposite side of the house. So the part of the house of Oscar Pistorius that you're looking at, that's the front side. The bedroom's right on the other side, with the bedroom opening, the balcony opening on the side far away, furthest away from your house. Is that correct?
Verstaan nie dit. Is dit so?
I don't know.
I do not know.
Yes, because you don't know the house inside.
Want jy weet nie.
I just put it as that's how it is. That's why you won't hear, because you're on the wrong side, number 130.
Is dit die rede waarom u nie kon hoor nie, want u was aan die verkeerde kant van die plek, van die huis.
Dis moontlik.
It's possible, my lady.
Now that evening, and I take you back not to confuse you, Mrs. van der Merwe.
We apologize for the interruption, my lady. The court orderly was just telling us that the witness must just get closer to the microphone because it seems as if your voice can't be recorded properly. Sorry for the interruption.
Mrs. van der Merwe, that night, and I have nothing to say that you could not sleep, I accept that. And you were awake.
That's niks wat ek kan sê oor hier betrokke aan dat u nie kon slaap nie.
And I accept that around about 2 o'clock you were awake.
Hy sê en hy aanvaar dat hy ongeveer 2 en 3 uur oggend reeds wakker was, nie?
Ja.
Yes.
But I want to ask you something and then confirm to me if it's correct or incorrect what I'm reading to you.
Maar hy sê wel jy nou iets vra, hy moet sê wat reg of nie reg is nie, nie wat hy vir u gaan uitlees.
I woke up,
Hy sê wakker geword,
I looked at a clock watch and I saw that it was 1:56.
hy het na die horlosie gekyk te sien nie, dis 1:56.
Would that be a fair reflection of what you say?
Yes.
Yes.
And then I'm going to read the Afrikaans and ask you about it. Ek het 'n vrouestem gehoor, maar kon nie die woorde of taal hoor nie. I heard the voice of a female, but could not hear the words or the language.
Is dat so?
Dis reg.
That is correct.
If anything is incorrect, what you heard that evening, please tell me, will you?
As daar enigiets
If it differs from what I'm reading to you.
Ek sê jy moet hom sê, nee.
Ja.
I will.
Dit was ver van ons huis af. It was far from our house.
Is dat so?
Dis reg.
That is correct. Jy moet net hardop praat, want hulle sê die stem neem nie op nie. Asseblief tog.
What we do know or let me ask you, not to be unfair. Is it not correct, Ms. van der Merwe? It was not that you hear a continuous talking and a non-stop talking. That's not correct.
Ja.
Dit is nie korrek nie, nee.
Ja.
Yes.
There would be a female voice and then it would be quiet for periods and then you would hear a female voice again.
Jy sê jy kon na voor mense stem hoor, dan is dit stil vir 'n lang ruk, dan hoor jy weer die vrou se stem.
Reg. Korrek.
You
Yes,
did
that is
not.
correct.
You did not time the intervals to say, well, this one was 5 minutes and this one is 20 minutes.
En jy kon nie tel vir hoe lank dit was nie. Nou,
There were shorter intervals and there were longer intervals.
daar was korttermyne en langtermyne.
Ja.
Yes.
I get the impression, and you can help me, that before you heard the shots, there was a interval, a silent period, and then it was disturbed by the, whatever you call it, the force, thud, 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 or the shots.
Jy sê voor jy die skote gehoor het, was daar lang stilte. Voor jy die skote kan hoor nie.
Ek kan nie dit meer mooi onthou nie. Dit was bietjie lank terug.
So what?
My lady, I just can't remember correctly anymore because it's quite some time ago.
So what you say, you can't say that before the shots, if there was a long period of silence or not.
Ja.
Is that what you said?
Correct.
Yes, that is correct.
It follows that you can't say for some period before the shots that it was talking. It must follow. It's the same thing.
Sê nie.
Please repeat your question.
Of course I will. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
if you can't say whether there was for a short or a long period before let's call it the shooting, to make it easy. Let's refer to the shooting. The shots, let's call it that.
Hy sê kom ons verwys na dit as die geskietery.
You did not hear the female voice.
Ek het nie die vroumensstem gehoor nie, nee.
No, sorry, the question was a bit different. You said to me that you cannot say, you can't remember before the shooting whether there was a long period of silence, of meaning not hearing a female voice or not. You can't remember.
Dit sal ek nie kan onthou nie.
Dis korrek.
Dit is
It means if you can't remember that, you can also likewise not say that before the shots there was a female voice.
As dit so.
Ekskuus dit.
Repeat yourself again.
You cannot say shortly before the shots you heard a female voice. Shortly before.
Jy sal nie kan sê dat kortliks na die skote het die vroumensstem gehoor nie.
Nee.
No, I can't say that.
Yes. In fact, what sounded to you when you heard this noise on and then for periods not talking or not, because it's not talking that you hear a voice far away without, you cannot make out language, you cannot make out words, but it must have sounded to you if it was coming from the farm in direction, because that's your first instinct, to walk there and see who would be talking, what would it be, to go in that direction where you hear it from. Not so.
Can you rephrase, please?
She says, please rephrase your question.
I'm sorry, it's too long. At some point, we don't know when, you got up and you walked to the farm inside.
Hy sê op 'n sekere tydstip of punt
Nou,
het jy opgestaan en na 'n sekere berigting in die huis en
To see if you could not see anything.
net om vas te stel of jy nie enigiets kan sien nie.
Is that right?
As dit so.
Dis korrek.
Dit is korrek.
And it would only make good sense to me that if you get up to see what it is, you would walk and look in a direction where you hear the voice coming from.
Ja, dat sal maar net sin maak. Sê nou maar as jy miskien stemme of geraas hoor, sal jy na die rigting toe stap waar jy dit vandaan gehoor gekom het, sê ek nie?
Ek het geen idee gehad waar dit vandaan gekom het nie.
I had no idea where that noise was coming from.
So ek het maar gaan kyk aan die kant. Ek was te bang om te stap aan die ander kant om my man wakker te maak.
I just went to look from the other side. I was scared to walk around the other side to go and wake up my husband.
And the farm inside is to the south of your house.
Dis na die suidelike
It's the
rigting.
opposite side of Oscar's
Die
house.
teenoorgestelde rigting van die suidelike rigting. Yes.
The fact is, you never heard any arguing.
Ek het geen argument gehoor nie.
Ek het
Mr. Yeri, I did.
Let me put it to you again, take you back. All you heard was, I'm reading it again, 'n vroue stem, maar ek kon nie die woorde of taal hoor nie. I'll translate it. Dit was ver van ons huis af. You heard a woman's voice. You could not hear the words or the language spoken, and it was far from your house. That is what you heard.
As dit wat jy gesê het.
ja, dis wat ek gesê
Dis
het,
waar hy sê het.
maar ek moet sê ek ken 'n vrou se stem
But I must say that I know a woman's voice.
en as dis gewoonlik in 'n vrou se stem waar daar baie buige beweging is
And there's many movements within a woman's voice.
wanneer ons kwaad raak.
Especially when we become angry or cross my lady.
But here it's far away. You can't hear words. You can't hear language.
Maar op die stadium is dit ver van waar jy is, want jy kan nie die woorde hoor nie en ook nie die taal nie.
Is eerlike waarheid sê ek weet nie van watter rigting af dit gekom het nie. Want ek het nie die moeite gedoen om eintlik uit te vind nie, want ek moes slaap.
Okay. To tell the honest truth, my lady, I do not know from which direction those sounds were coming from because I was trying by all means to
In that
fall
area,
asleep.
you can hear there's a game park. You can hear hyenas,
Dis 'n
jackal.
park daar waar jy bly nie.
Have you ever heard of there?
I never, only a lion.
A lion. And we all do it from time to time when you battle to sleep at some point in time, to cut out all noises, you put the pillow on your head.
Ek sê elke slag wanneer jy
There's
nie aan die
nothing
slaap kan
strange
raak,
about
die
that.
vat die jakkassing en sit dit op die kop nie, sodat jy aan die slaap kan raak.
Dis reg.
Dit is correct, I do.
Now, to take the one point that I'm making to the next level, and it's this. You did not, when you heard the sounds that your husband told you were gunshot sounds, you did not say to him, but hang on, those gunshot sounds followed an argument. Not, he was talking to you, you didn't tell him that.
Op die stadium het jy met die man gepraat, toe jy gesê dat geweerskote, het jy nie gesê dat die skote aflopig is van 'n argument wat plaasgevind het nie.
Nee, ek het nie.
No, I didn't.
If you really believed that morning when you spoke to your husband that there was any connection between that voice and the gunshots, he would have told your husband that morning already.
So jy raai al gaan glo dat daar enige koneksie is tussen die stemme wat jy gehoor het en die skote, dan sou jy iemand daarvan gesê het, nee,
That morning.
daai oggend.
Omdat ek nie seker was waar dit vandaan gekom het nie, het ek besluit om liewer stil te niks te sê van my man nie.
Because of the fact that I wasn't sure as from which direction those sounds were coming from, that's the reason why I decided to say nothing to my husband.
But what is important, that after, let's call it the shots, and I want to use your words, I heard someone crying out loudly.
Toe sê ek gehoor iemand hard, heel hard op.
Dis reg, ja.
That is correct.
Dis reg, ja.
It's correct. Ek het hard op praat.
And it sounded to you like a woman's voice,
And for
a
either
woman
person-
crying out loudly.
Asof wat 'n vrou mens stem is wat hard op hy.
Dis korrek.
That is correct.
But your husband knows Oscar.
Maar die man, teen mos vir Oscar nie.
Ek weet nie, my man het nooit met my gesê of hy wel ooit met Oscar gepraat het of nie.
Well, I do not know because my husband never told me whether he wants to go to Oscar or not.
Ekskuus, ek het my verkeerd uitgespreek. My man het vir my gesê hy het met Oscar al gepraat,
Sorry, your worship, my husband once told me that he wants to go to Oscar,
maar hy het my nooit vir my gesê waaroor nie.
but he never told me what about.
Not, I'm sorry, Malay.
I'm sorry.
It's not once. It's. Can she just repeat? I didn't say
Sorry?
één keer. Hy
Die
het
man
al
gesê?
met Oscar gepraat.
Hy het al met Oscar gepraat, ja.
He spoke to Oscar, your worship, but he didn't tell me what about. Nee,
Ja, nee, that's correct.
that is correct.
It's not only once they cross the street, not directly across, but they talk about cars, he tells me. They had a couple of conversations.
En ek sê, dit is nie net eenmaal nie. Hulle praat oor algemene dinge.
Ek weet nie.
Well, I do not know about that. Do not know.
And your husband told you when you asked him, he said it's Oscar crying there. That's Oscar's voice.
En jou man, jy gesê is Oscar wat hy in die sy stem.
Dis korrek.
That is correct.
And what happened after that? Did you hear the vehicles coming?
En wat het daarna gebeur het toe jy nou die karre gehoor aanry kom?
Ons het maar net 'n commotion gehoor en ek het by die venster, ek kan net vir jou dit ek kan nie baie mooi onthou nie want ek het maar net 'n commotion gehoor
I just heard a commotion. I can't say more about that and do.
en ek het 'n ambulans toe gesien, dit is maar basies al.
And I also saw an ambulance as well, and that's basically all that happened.
Something that you mentioned that I want to ask you about, and maybe I misunderstood you, and you can correct me, of course. But I get the impression that after you heard the sounds like someone loudly crying, you also mentioned at some point in time that you have an inability to remember the events later on. Or did I miss that?
Was dit so het ek dit gemis of is dit wat u gesê het?
Ek het dit is 'n jaar en 'n bietjie langer as 'n jaar terug wat die insident gebeur het. So dit is ek kan nie absoluut alles 100% onthou nie.
This incident happened more than a year ago, so I can't recall every detail of the incident clearly, my lady.
Can you say that that after the crying, You heard the crying. Can you tell us what you were doing then after the crying?
Okay, nou jy nou die
Hearing the crying.
die geheilery gehoor het. Wat was jy besig om te doen? Toe die geheilery plaasgevind het.
Ek het nog gelê in die bed.
I was just lying in bed.
Ek het groot geskrik. En ek het regop gesit. Dis basies al wat ek gedoen het.
I was terribly frightened. Toe jy opgesit.
Regop gesit.
I then sat up straight in bed.
And
my lady.
then?
En toe?
Ek kan nie onthou nie.
I can't remember anymore. It's long ago.
You heard at some stage. You saw the vehicle. You saw an ambulance in front of Oscar's house.
Op 'n stadium het jy 'n ambulans voor Oscar se huis gesien, nee.
Dis korrek.
That is correct.
But you did not hear it coming. You just, at some stage when you looked through the window, you saw the ambulance.
Maar ek het gehoor toe dit nog aangereg gekom het. Ek het maar net hierdie venster verloor. Toe sien jy die ambulans daar staan.
Dis korrek.
That is correct.
How old's your baby?
Hoe oud was die baba?
How old was he then?
Ekskuus tog?
Your baby, how old was your baby? Your
Hoe
child?
oud was uw kind op
I say
daai
baby, but maybe
die seun wat
older.
hier van melding gemaak het.
Hy is
Hoe oud was hy?
11 years old.
11 jaar, my lady.
Did he wake up?
Het hy opgestaan?
Nee.
Nou,
Did you perhaps go to him to see that he was okay?
het hy na hom toe gegaan net om vas te stel of hy alright is? Nou,
Did you go outside?
het hy na buite toe gegaan?
Nee.
Nou,
Did you remain in the bedroom?
het hy
Yes.
in die kamer bly staan? Yes.
Was it a sort of attitude when you heard this loud crying that you were scared and you thought, let me rather stay safe in my house?
Was het
I
nou
don't
die
know what's
geheilery wat jy gehoor het dat jy besluit het om stil in die huis te sit?
Ek het so groot geskrik. Ek het nie geweet wat om te doen nie. Ek het myself letterlik lam geskrik.
I was literally frightened. I didn't even know what to do. I was even weak shaken, my lady.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the first part. Could you just repeat that?
I got
Just
a
because I didn't hear now the reason.
I got a terrible fright. I didn't even know what to do at that stage. Sy het lam geword.
Did you say that
Van
you
die
were paralyzed?
skrikkery.
Ja.
You were in shock.
Ja.
Van skok.
Ja.
Yes.
It's as if you cut off from the world for a while.
Asof jy nou buite
Going
buite werking is.
trying to understand.
As dit wat jy
Nee, ek
dis
was-
wat ek probeer om te verstaan.
Nee, ek was nie ek het nie van die wêreld afgesny nie. Ek was maar net jy's lam gaan skrik. Jy skrik
No, I
sodat
wasn't
jy's lam.
cut out of the world. I was just weak because of shock, my lady.
And would that explain why you have a difficulty remember that part?
En sal dit nou
When you
verduidelik
were
hoekom u nou 'n probleem
that
het om
shock.
dat te kan onthou as gevolg van skok?
Dis moontlik, ek weet nie.
It's possible, but I do not know.
Go to bear with me. Could you just bear with me, my lady? Thank you, my lady. I have no further questions.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
May it please the court. Madam, I have 4 issues. On the early morning of 14 February 2013, you heard a woman's voice and you looked out to which direction?
Was dit so?
Van installation.
On the 21st of February 2014, you heard voices and you looked out to which direction?
Van installation and Oscar's house.
But the first when you heard it and you had to look out, you looked out to which direction?
Van in.
To Farmy.
with respect, I'm not sure that this is re-examination. It's getting it to repeat the evidence. It's not the purpose of re-examination.
Well, it's done already. It's
Yes,
on
I know, my lady,
on record.
but that's not
No,
re-examination.
but it is re-examination. It was a question about why she looked out at Farm In.
Why she did what?
Why? It was put to her that she looked out to Farm In because she didn't know. And that is what was covered as a good business.
Yes. I see what you mean.
Madam, you were saying, and you weren't given opportunity to build on it, that you know a woman's voice.
Ja, mevrouw heeft gesê jy ken haar Afro-se stem nie.
Ja.
Yes.
And what did you want to say?
Wat wou jy gesê? Want dit blyk asof u nie kans gegee is om mooi uit te brei nie.
'n Vrou se stem is hoër as 'n man se stem. Maar
A man's voice is higher than a woman's voice is higher than a man's voice.
Yes.
'n man se stem is meer bas.
Yeah.
En
And a man's voice worship is more like of bass.
ja.
Yeah, there's more bass than a woman's.
En as 'n vrou opgewonde raak of dan is daar baie bewegings.
And if a woman gets excited or something of that sort, there are many movements within a woman's voice.
And what did you hear?
Wat het jy gehoor?
Ekskuus, wanneer is dit nou?
No,
When now?
that when you heard the woman's voice, what
Op
did
die
you?
stadium toe jy die vrou mens stem gehoor het.
Ek het baie beweging, op en af beweging en dit was nie 'n man se stem nie.
I had a lot of up and down movements within that voice. It wasn't a man's voice, my lady.
En daar was 'n groot verskil in die 21ste wat ek wakker geword het en die oggend van die 14de.
Because there was a big difference between those 2 days, the 21st as well as the 13th of February, 14th of February, when I woke up, my lady.
Madam, I said there are 4 issues. The third issue, you, in a question, you answered that you didn't tell your husband the next morning about the woman's voice.
Op 'n vraag het hy beantwoord en gesê, het nie iets man gesê oor die vrou mense wat ek hoor het in die oggend nie.
Dis korrek.
That is correct.
When did you tell him?
Wanneer het jy hom gesien?
Nadat ek gehoor het dat Oscar het sy vriendin geskiet.
After I learned that Oscar shot his girlfriend, my lady,
Then you told her.
to say iemand daarvan. Yes.
Madam, the fourth issue. You said that you were paralyzed with fear.
Die sê hy was lam geslaan van skok nie.
Dis korrek.
That is correct.
Why were you paralyzed?
Hoekom
What
was hy
shocked you?
paralyseer van skok?
Ek is nie gewoond aan ek het nog nooit 'n gewapenskoot gehoor nie. Dit was die heel eerste keer en omdat ek die persoon gehoor het wat so hard huil en ek nie geweet het wie dit was nie en ek nie geweet het wat die omstandighede was nie, het ek
That was because I never had a gunshot prior to that. And after hearing that person's voice, I really didn't know as to what was happening. And that's what shocked me.
Malady, I said the 4 issues, I'm done. That's good.
Thank you very much. Mrs. van der Merwe, thank you very much for your assistance.
U sê baie dankie dat u vir u help, né?
You may be excused.
U word nou verskoon, né?
Baie.
Thank you very much, my lady.
This witness is very relieved. May I call the next witness, Charles Johnson?
Do I make the same order? Do I make the same?
Indeed, my lady, I kindly request that the court makes the same order as far as this witness is concerned.
This is the order I make in respect of this witness who is about to give evidence. No photograph of him may be televised or published in any form.
As the court pleases, my lady.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Johnson?
Has he been sworn in?
Yeah, I am.
Die volle naam asseblief, meneer?
Charles Peter Johnson.
Charles Peter Johnson. Het u beswaar om die voorgeskrewe eed te neem?
Ek nie.
No objection to take the prescribed oath. Reg die regter aan en sê so help my God as die hele waarheid sal praat asseblief.
So help my God.
Swanny,
Court pleases.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, do you know the first witness in this matter, Michelle Berger?
Michelle Berger, ken jy die eerste getuie? Dis Michelle Berger in die verhoor.
Ken haar, is my vrou.
I do know her. She is my wife.
And you live together in the Silverstream estate, is that correct?
Julle woon saam daar by Silver Oak Street.
Dit is korrek, ons
Dat-
woon saam in Silverstream, landgoed.
That is correct. We staying together there.
What business are you in, Mr. Johnson?
Wat besigheid doen u, meneer Johnson?
Switch over to English. I work as a IT project manager.
My lady, the witness wishes to switch over to English.
My lady, may I kindly request that the witness would be fairly fluent in English if he experiences a problem, if the interpreter could then assist.
No, that's fine. If you're comfortable with English and you want to testify in English, you may do so.
Thank you, Melanie.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson, what business are you in?
I work as an IT project manager at an investment company called Citadel Investment Services.
We will have to speak up, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, a little louder than that.
Must I repeat?
Yes, please.
I work as an IT project manager at an investment company called Citadel Investment Services.
You're very soft.
I said I work as an IT project manager at a company called Investec. I beg your pardon, Citadel Investment Services.
Mr. Johnson, this matter deals with an incident that took place in the early hours of 14 February 2013. Do you know that?
Yes, I am aware of that.
Now, on the evening of 13 February 2013, were you at home?
Yes, we were at home.
You say we were at home. Who was with you?
It was my wife and I. It was a normal evening at home. If I can elaborate, I think we went to bed around 10 o'clock that evening.
You'd have to try and speak louder. If I can't hear you from here, the chances are that no one else can hear you. Please try.
Should I repeat?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, as I said, my lady, it was a normal evening for us at home. We retired to bed around 9, probably between 9 and 10 that evening. So there was no, it was just a normal evening for us.
And then during the night and during the early hours of the next morning, an incident took place.
Yes,
Please tell the court what happened.
my lady, I woke up during the early mornings of the early morning hours on the 14th of February. Got woken up by the screams of a lady, a woman, and I remember after I woke up.
Just a moment. Yes.
After the first screams, I woke up. I lifted my head from the pillow to ensure that I heard correctly. And when I heard the lady scream again, I jumped out of bed and I ran to the balcony, which is on the first floor.
I didn't hear. After you jumped up, I didn't hear you.
After I jumped out of bed, I ran to the balcony. The balcony is on the first floor. It's approximately 10 meters from my bedside.
Mr. Johnson, it was not in dispute. Can you open the file in front of you at Exhibit F? It's marked in red at the side. And in Exhibit F, just turn to photograph 921, or slide 921. Are you there?
Yes.
Does that look familiar to you?
Yes, I can see it's an aerial shot of the Silver Woods estate. And in the upper left-hand corner, I can see my house, which is in the Silver Stream estate.
Now, where would you, where's your house? No, back here.
It's this unit here.
Just keep your finger there. My lady, he's pointing towards exactly where there's a circle now. It's towards the roof, just above 46A Trevor, the roof just above the T, am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
Is that your house?
That is my house.
Let's turn the page to 930. Can you recognize that?
Yes, I do. That's a view from the balcony where I stood on the night of the event.
You stood on that balcony?
That's correct.
At the moment, there's a red arrow. Does that have any significance for you?
I know that that is the window where the incident took place.
Let us turn the page to 931. Can you recognize that view?
Yes, I do. It's a zoomed in image of the same view as the previous image, also from my balcony.
And if you turn to 932, can you recognize that?
I do. It's the same view, same angle, from the same spot on our balcony, just further zoomed in.
Okay. Now, you said you got up, you ran to the balcony. What happened then?
When I got out onto the balcony, I stood there and I listened, and I again heard a person screaming. I could hear she was in trouble. It was clearly distress calls.
Yes.
I can't say exactly how long I stood there. It felt like a couple of minutes. And at one point I heard a lady person scream, "Help." And moments after that, a male voice shouted 2 or 3 times. I'm not exactly certain, but it's more than once. A male person shouted, "Help, help, help."
What happened then?
It's at that point that my wife, who woke up when I got out of bed, called me back to the bedroom and said we should phone the security.
Yeah.
When I got back to the room, my wife handed me her phone. She had already dialed a number on the phone stored under the contact description security. And I understood that it was the security of the Silver Stream Estates security guard room.
Okay. Yes.
So the intention was that I would speak to our estate's security personnel. I know that they're on radio contact with the security room of the Silver Woods estate, so that I could inform them of what I've heard. People are being attacked in their house. So
Yes.
at that point, we were under the impression that people are being attacked, like a house robbery or an armed robbery. So I wanted to bring it under the attention of the Silver Woods security estate's security. So when the person answered the telephone, I explained to them that there's people being attacked in the house in the Silver Woods estate, and they should contact their security room. The first person that I spoke to was confused by what I told them, and they handed the phone to a second person, to whom I repeated the message. And when I said there are people being attacked in the Silver Woods estate, the person informed me that it's not the Silver Woods estate guard room, it's the Strubenkop estate's security.
And why would you have called Strubenkop?
I realized immediately my wife had stored it's a place where we lived previously, and she had never changed the contact number for the contact on her phone stored under security. So I immediately realized that we had called the wrong number, and I informed the person it's a wrong number, and I ended the phone call.
And what happened after you ended the phone call?
At that point, I didn't pay any attention to any of the sounds coming from the house, or the direction where the earlier calls came from, so I can't give you any information on that. But I ran back to the balcony. When I got onto the balcony, the woman continued screaming. She started screaming again.
Okay, just a moment. Yes.
At that point, the intensity and the fear in her voice escalated. and it was clear that this person's life was in danger. That's when the first shots were fired. And I remember during the session of shots, I heard the lady scream again, and the last scream faded moments after the last gunshot was fired.
Before you carry on, you said that you heard the first gunshots. How many did you hear?
My lady, I knew there were a few shots. I didn't count them. In my version afterwards, when I told the first people, I said 5 or 6 shots. I didn't count the shots, but I knew there were quite a few. I've subsequently learned that it was 4, and it was confirmed in the reports.
Now, if you say you heard shots, could you explain what the time frame between the shots were, or what it sounded like to you?
Excuse me, can you
the shots, was there a time difference between the first and the second and third shots? What did you hear?
Yeah, there was a small pause after the first shot, and the remaining shots were fired in close succession.
So you then heard the shots. What happened there?
At that point, I returned to the bedroom, obviously quite alarmed and shocked at what we had heard. When I got back to the bedroom, I recall my wife saying to me that she thinks that lady's husband was just shot in front of her. And the reason why we thought that was because we heard the lady screaming during the shots. And the picture we had in our mind was that people were being held up in their house.
Yes.
After that, I can't recall any other noises or sounds that I heard from the area. My wife and I sat on the bed. We were obviously quite traumatized by what we had heard. And I don't think we spoke much after that. It was still quite early, shortly after 3, and we attempted to sleep further. I can recall hearing the security vehicle, or a vehicle approaching the direction of where the shots came from, and that's why we assumed that someone else would have also witnessed the event and would have notified the security of Silver Woods. So as I said, we tried to sleep. I lay in bed, obviously concerned for our own security. We were under the impression that someone had been attacked in their house in a very secure complex, and my thinking was that if it could happen to them, the same could happen to us. So I lay awake thinking about how I can improve our security in our house. I remember at around 4 o'clock I got up out of bed and I fetched the tape measure to go and measure our door openings where our sliding doors are. I went back upstairs, tried to sleep, but couldn't really, and I woke up early. I got out of bed early around 5 a.m. and my wife and I both got up at that time and we went to the office. I was at my office quite early that morning, around 6. I recall when I left.
We have a difficulty to hear the witness.
Yeah.
We hear parts of it and parts of it. If you can just speak up a little bit.
Yes. Could you try to speak up again? You're getting softer and softer.
As I said,
yeah, you went to work early.
Yeah, so I ended up at the office quite early that morning, around 6 o'clock. And I remember I surfed a bit on the web to try and do research on security gates, see if I can get more information on costs, etc., and sizes. I remember when I left our estate, I stopped at the security boom and I inquired with the security officer on duty whether he knows what happened at Silverwood's estate the previous evening. And I was informed that they know that something happened, but they aren't exactly certain what happened. And I then proceeded to the office. It was my intention and my plan to phone a friend of mine, Willem Vos, who, together with Mr. Peter Hall, built our house in Silverstream. And I was under the impression that Mr. Vos and Mr. Hall are busy building a house in the Silverwoods estate. And I thought they might have a contact that they could contact and find out more information on the incident of the previous evening. So I waited for 7 o'clock the next morning and I called Willem.
That's Mr. Vos.
Mr. Vos. So Mr. Vos was the first person that I told my version to, the same version that I'm giving you today. After I told him my story, what we had heard, he said he's going to phone around, see if he can get any information, and he'll call me back. I made the phone call from a boardroom in our office. When I ended the phone call, I went into an office adjacent to the boardroom where 4 of my colleagues were. I then related the same version to them. After I told them what happened, a couple of minutes later, Willem or Mr. Vos called me back and he asked me to repeat my story, what I had heard, which I then did. He proceeded to say that he's hesitant to spread a rumor, but what he had heard was that the Olympic athlete, Mr. Oscar Pistorius, had shot his girlfriend. I remember I was very surprised at what he had told me, and I said to him, it's difficult for me to relate what I'd heard to what you are telling me. I was convinced it was a housebreak due to the fact that we heard both people, a man and a woman, calling for help. So after that, we ended that phone call. I went back into the office where my colleagues were, and I said to them that I don't want to spread this rumor any further, but this is what I'd heard. And as I told them what the news was, one of my colleagues saw the first report on the Beeld's website. So it was then confirmed. I then left that office where my colleagues were, and I proceeded to call my wife. And we had spoken, I think, maybe once or twice that morning. I know she had told her version to a number of her colleagues and also a friend of her to try, and she phoned a lady, Mrs. Goller. Her child goes to the daycare centre in Silverwoods, and we thought that Mrs. Goller would be able to find out more information. So that's the reason why my wife and I spoken. When I called her, I asked her just to relate her version to me again, and I said once she had told me her version, I said to her, can you believe this is what I'd heard? And I informed her of the allegations that it was Mr. Pistorius involved in the incident. And the reason why I did that was because I was still surprised, and she was as surprised as I am, that it was in fact a domestic violence incident and not an armed robbery or housebreak incident.
Why did you think at the time that it was a domestic violence incident?
I think the fact that we had distinctly heard two different persons, a male and a female lady, calling for help. And when we heard their calls for help, the impression I was under that maybe the attackers had left the house and they were tied up or locked in a room and they were trying to alert the neighbors. That's just the impression that we were under.
So you spoke to your wife? Let's carry on from there. You spoke to your wife?
After I spoke to my wife, obviously it was... I think everyone is aware of how quickly the news spread and escalated, and so we followed it in the news. That afternoon when I got home, obviously throughout the day I saw aerial shots of the Silverwoods estate, and I was surprised to see how close we are to the house where it happened. So the afternoon when I got home, I got onto our roof, the roof of our house. There's a row of trees in our neighbour's yard, so it obscures our view. So I got onto the roof so I could see over the treetops. And I took a camera with me, and I was able to see the house, Oscar Pistorius' house, from our rooftop, and I took a photograph from there. I then proceeded to go and look at the Google Earth image and used a utility that is available on the Google Earth website to measure the distance. My estimate was around 150 meters. That same afternoon, after I got off the roof, I spoke to my next door neighbor. He's also on the boundary between Silver Stream and Silverwoods, but he's my neighbor in Silver Stream. And I asked him whether he had heard anything. His name is Heinrich, I'm not sure what his surname is. So he said that they only woke up from the last shot, and he thinks the reason why I didn't hear anything was because they have a ceiling fan on in the room, which creates a hum, and that flushes out the noises. So I gave him the same version that I gave you today, how I remembered the events. And
how did it come about that you made a statement to the police?
So we initially didn't want to get involved. We also assumed that if we were so far away, 170 meters, I believe, I assumed that there would be many people that are much closer to the actual house that would have a much clearer recollection and would have heard more clearly what had happened. So we never thought that during the first week that we would have to get involved. As the bail application proceeded, we heard, or more information became available, and we realized that there are no other witnesses that have come forward closer to us. I remember the Friday when the bail application or bail hearings verdict was given. We were on our way to SABC, where I was going to participate in a mountain bike race. Just before we left, I had spoken to our neighbour in the Silver Woods estate. I believe the lady's name is Mrs. Dale Maritz. And that was the first time after the incident that we had an opportunity to speak to her. And we discussed the incident and asked if she had heard anything. And she said no, they've got an aircon unit that was on that evening, which also flushed out the noises. So we, on our way to SABC, we listened to the court proceedings on the radio, and I recall a statement being made by the defense that there was only one person that had shouted or screamed that evening, and that was the accused. My version differed from that, and I felt morally obliged to come forward and provide my version. Obviously hoping that there would also be other witnesses that would come forward in an attempt to avoid any public blootstelling. I don't know what to public blootstelling.
I didn't get that. You're getting softer again.
Sorry, I'm just looking for the English word. What's blootstelling in English?
The word is involvement. Involvement. You did not want to get involved.
Yeah, basically, sorry, if I can express it like this, we didn't want to get involved. We wanted to remain out of the public, obviously knowing what the interest would be worldwide in this case. So for that reason, we did not want to just go to the Boschkop police station and make a statement. We looked for a different avenue. My wife then contacted a advocate friend of hers, Mr. Advocate Nikki Maritz, and we gave our version to him, and he advised us to make notes in as much detail as what we can remember, as we will have to rely on those notes to refresh our memories, which we both did at that point. Nikki, Mr. Maritz, informed us that he knows Mr. Nell, Advocate Nell, and he will approach him. So that's how we set the ball in motion to come forward with our version and make a statement. It was, I'm not sure of the dates, but a couple of days after that, the investigating team arrived at our house one evening and inquired if we had heard anything on the night of the 14th or the morning of the 14th. And that was the first time we made an official statement.
Now, when you made your statement, who took down your statement, your written statement by the police?
There was I can't remember, there were two gentlemen that came to our house. We gave them that first version, and then the following week, Captain Mike van Aert contacted me, and we made an appointment. He came to our house, and both my wife and I made a statement, and he wrote down our affidavits. The consultation happened separately, individually. I was not present while my wife made her statement, and nor was she when I made mine.
But it's 4 minutes to 3. We've had a full day, and I could certainly use a couple of minutes to go through the notes before I finalise this evidence. May I then request that we adjourn for the day?
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson, you're still under oath. Please don't discuss this case with anybody.
Yes, my lady.
We'll resume at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Court will adjourn.
Indeed.